If you stand by the Nith, you can't help but watch things float down. And sometimes you'll have things like birds riding them, or otters playing on the col, enjoying their freedom of transport through the water. Can you imagine people in Kirlaverick thinking, oh no, if only ditches weren't barriers, if only we could use the Nith to our advantage and use it to help us get around the place? What if we had boats in a harbour? Well, actually, they wouldn't have been worrying that because they would have boats and they'd be using it to cross over the Solent, rowing or with sails, or to Norway or to the Mediterranean. And then later on in the 18th, 19th century, bigger ships that could take you across to the new worlds to bring back spices, to follow the cod, or to wage war, like John Paul Jones, who was a local boy, made good, and started the American Navy. So join me for an adventure, maybe not setting sail from the slipway at Glen Capel today, but making model boats. And these boats are a simple construction made out of milk bottles, bits of sheet, and a hot glue gun. Great for having fun in the paddling pool in the back garden, or maybe you can find a patch of still water further afield to adventure on. So the really quick make a boat version video goes something like this. To make these model boats, you'll need a milk bottle. You need to cut the milk bottle. You can make it really simple cut and you get a boat, or you can get a little bit more creative, and after you've cut it in half, you can use one half to extend your boat and give it a stern. It's got really nice sleek lines to it. And you can use another part of the back half to either make a cabin if you're going to do a powered boat, or you can give your boat a foredeck that will help support a mast. You can use all different sizes of milk bottle, from small to big. Once you've made your boat's hull, it's time to experiment. You could go right back to the Romans and have a square sail, and that's really stable, a nice short mast. You could have a lug sail like this, which is a sort of next evolution, and that's quite stable as well. And these things will bob around quite happily in a pond, even if the wind is a bit gusty. Third type of sail is the sort of sail you'll see on more model boats nowadays. Bermuda rig, jib, mainsail. It's a bit tippy and you'll probably capsize a lot of times. So adding a keel to your boat is a really good idea. This one has a bit of random scrap metal. You can find car springs broken off by the side of the road. Just be careful when you pick them up so you don't get knocked down. Or if you want to invest more time and effort in making your keel, then hot glue gun. You can glue lots of random bits of heavy stuff to a fin which you cut out of a milk bottle. More experimental forms of power, you could cut yourself a wheel, like a paddle wheel, and power it with a rubber band and see if you can get that to work. And you can also use things like tin cans to make boats' hulls, and you can make a boiler out of a tin can too, which can be powered by a candle, and it will soak water up. But you fill it with water, the flame heats the water expands and becomes steam and goes flying out, which leaves a vacuum, so water is sucked in where it gets heated and then it goes out. So it comes in, gets heated, then goes out again. Put, 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 and it's a put, put boat. You could use this type of hull, or if you experiment with sizes, you could use one of the milk bottle hulls, put, put boiler. You might need to get a chunky candle for it, and it's all about experimenting and trying new ways of making boats. That way you can think about the history of the Nith down by the Glen Capel, lower reaches of the Nith, but think with your hands while you're making stuff. Well, it works. Getting it to work well can be tricky. You have to balance the size of the boiler, the power you can get from the candle flame, and the length of the pints, or straws in this case. And then you'll get it working really well. There's not much wind in my bath, so a slightly bigger challenge, larger expanse of water. Well, the wind's pushing it, but kind of the wrong way. And it's all going a bit, well, it's getting a bit tricky and it's sinking. Fortunately, we have our rescue boat in place.
Stop. Okay, get on the water. Oh, nice! Oh. Cool. Sail ashore.
Water is sucked into the cylinder. It's not really a cylinder. Into the boiler. Water is sucked into the boiler, heated up, and it becomes steam, and that forces it out of the boiler, and that leaves a vacuum, which is then filled up by water, which heats up and then is forced out as steam. So there you have it. Lots of ways to turn milk bottles into boats. Lots of ways to power your boats. And you just need to find some still water. And you can experiment with sail and steam, just like people who've been building boats on the Nith have been doing for centuries. Well, if you think about the Romans, for millennia. And all because it's a lot easier than walking. Well, that's the end of the video. As you can see, some of the boats worked really nicely. The square sail is really stable. This tall Bermuda rig capsized a lot. If you've liked this video, please do the liking, sharing, subscribing thing, and check out my other videos.